Ghanaians have known attorneys general filing cases at the court. First of all, investigating the cases, filing them at the court, and the media following whatever happens to inform the public about it. But the current Attorney General has decided to take a different turn altogether by organizing press conferences to inform Ghanaians regarding the state of investigations into cases he's looking into, and then subsequently telling us that he will be going to court to file ABCD charges against individuals who are involved. For those who are for it, they think that the Attorney General is accounting to the people. But those who are against it think that he's prosecuting individuals in the court of public opinion, even before he decides to go to court. That is what we want to look at on Agenda tonight. Hello, good evening, and welcome to Agenda. My name is Beatrice, and like I just told you, tonight we'll be delving into this very issue of the modus operandi, as it were, by the current Attorney General to look at cases in press conferences before he finally goes to court to file them for the media to follow. And we'll be looking at what the Constitution says about what he's doing and even the implications for the individuals involved in his investigations. And I do have on the panel with me Professor Ayine. He's a governance expert. I also do have with us lawyer, private legal practitioner Alexander Aban. Will be joined in the studio very shortly as well by Victor Kojoga Adaudu, who is also a private legal practitioner. Remember that we're also streaming live on 3FM 92.7. Send us your comment and we'll read them back to you. And I want to start with you, Professor Ayine. People are concerned about really the Attorney General's decision to hold press conferences. I know that we've had government representatives telling us that he's just giving us updates on oral, which was one of the promises by the president. And he's been doing that before he decides that I'm going to court on these charges. Is this something that as a governance person you're concerned about personally?
I'm not concerned. Thank you very much, and greetings to all our viewers and listeners everywhere in the world. I'm not concerned particularly about that, but, you know, perception is real. And there is always the pros and the cons of doing such things. So if you look at the pros, people who are talking about it's a very transparent process are saying that, well, it keeps the public informed about what is going on at each step. And then it builds trust in justice system so that people will know what is going on. The con, which is against that argument, is that it might compromise some legal processes. And then it could also fuel political partisanship in the way it is told. And then it also seeks to sway public sentiment in favor of the government narrative. So we look at the pros and the cons and see what is happening. So quickly, we look at some best practices. I believe that, and I'm talking from the perspective of leadership, that nature is its own witness. And there's a reason why we are surrounded by the sea, the land, and then the clouds, which is the heavens, because they bear witness to everything that we do. And if you talk about legal issues, it's all about, you know, evidences. So if we don't have evidence, then we cannot prosecute people. And that is why easy cases that even a law student, Law 101 student can say that these are low-hanging fruits. Somebody has been caught with payroll fraud with 9,999 ghost names. Another person caught with 7 million scandal of cybersecurity. Even somebody who has never been to school will say that, let's prosecute that person, take the money and send the person to jail easily. But the law doesn't go through that process. So if you come public to social media and explain that, okay, we've got a person, this is what we're doing, the ordinary person on the street will say that, well, you have the evidence now, so prosecute that person and send the person to jail. But the legal process doesn't work that way. So you confuse the person on the street because you've told them already what the person has done. But now you are going to court to go through the process, and it frustrates everybody. And that is why you have to tread on caution when you are going to social media to talk about some of these issues.
Let me find out from you, Lawyer Aban, what your view is on this. I seem to get the understanding from Professor Ayine that you don't necessarily have a problem with it, except that you're confusing the process. Is that what you're saying?
The ordinary man on the street.
Exactly.
Because you're telling them to follow up the process you're doing. But now you're going to court, and court doesn't care about public opinion. go through evidences and the processes. So the person you've told already is waiting for another person to prosecute it. In the end, if it doesn't go that way, that person will be disappointed.
And we'll go into that as well. Let me get your preliminary thoughts, really, on what the AG is doing.
Thank you very much. Good evening to our cherished viewers, and good evening. This is the first time I'm coming on this show. I think that if you look at the kind of governance system that we have, it emanates from the people, and it is meant for the people. So we have to draw the line between what is purely legal and what is for political propaganda. If it is purely legal, I would have no problem with it. But before the Attorney General decides to go very public on some of these investigations, he has a duty to be sure that he draws a very good balance between protecting the rights of the people or of the persons involved, and also making sure that because governance is meant for the people also follow what he's doing. So
have you seen that line? Have you seen that line drawn between what is the legal case and perhaps a political communication?
It appears to me that the political communication seems to be outweighing what is purely legal or what is purely information that he wants to give.
Why do you say that? Give examples.
Yes, the reason is that you realize that the government made a huge promise and set so much store on this issue of oral. And sometimes there is the urge to let people know, especially the base of the party, to know that indeed, as we promised, we are delivering on that promise. And so it gets the followers of the party, members of the party, excited that indeed something is going on. And so if the politics of it take the better part of protecting the rights of individuals, that's where I have a problem. Then he has crossed the line. But if it is purely meant for information and it is guided not for political reasons, but for the fact that people should follow what is going on, I don't think I have a problem at all.
Okay,
because in all established democracies, they do it, right? If there is something that has happened, obviously, they would follow up, a person would get caught, and the Attorney General would definitely do a press conference that, oh, this murder that happened XYZ here, right? The person has been caught, he is this person, he is this person, he is this person. And, but if you make it so suggestive that the person has already committed a crime and he is soon going to be put in jail and all that, that's where I'll have a problem.
So let me get clarity from what you're saying. First, you are making that quote-unquote objective argument that if indeed it's to inform the public, you don't have a problem. But so far, from what you've seen, it appears to you that it's more political than he trying to inform the public. So as we speak right now, you have a problem. Because your argument is that if it is to inform the public, you don't have a problem. But so far, you seem to get the understanding that he's doing the political, communication bit of it outweighs whatever he's doing in terms of informing the public. So
Exactly.
You have a problem.
That's to that extent only.
To that extent only. And I'll come back to Professor Opoku-Antwi as well, and also get the preliminary thought of Victor Kojoga Adawudu, who is a private legal practitioner, as well as a member of the NDC's legal team. Don't go away. Stay with us.
morning, I wake up to this miracle sleeping soundly. But mornings weren't always this peaceful. I remember the sleepless nights, leaks that woke us both up, damp clothes and tears. And all I wanted was for my baby to be dry and comfortable. Then I discovered Flora Kids baby diaper. Its maximum absorption keeps my little one dry all night, giving us peaceful, restful sleep. And the stretchy side tapes, they make sure it's comfy even when she's on the move. Thanks to Flora Kids baby diaper, our nights are calm and our mornings are full of giggles. For bulk purchases, call Delta Paper Mail on 0243 033 033.
And you're still here on Agenda on TV3. My name is Beatrice, and tonight we're talking about the penchant of the Attorney General to be holding press conferences. The government calls it updates on investigations he's doing on cases that the government intends to prosecute, should the AG get enough evidence on those cases. And before we went on that break, we had the preliminary thought of governance expert Professor Opoku Entry. We've also had that from private legal practitioner Alexander Aban, who is in the studio as well with us. We've been joined by another private legal practitioner and a member of the NDC legal team, Victor Kojoga Adawudu. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you.
So,
and it's a pleasure being on this platform with my colleagues.
let me get your first thoughts on the concern by people that it seems the AG is prosecuting people in the court of public opinion before he even goes to court. And I don't know whether you had the opportunity to listen to what Professor Entry said and also what lawyer Alexander Aban just told us, that he feels that the AG, the political side of it is outweighing the intention that was communicated to us earlier, that it is to inform Ghanaians about issues that they are concerned about.
I don't think so. I think that what the Attorney General is doing is to borrow from the best practices. And what he's doing is that he's giving information to the public, which has a constitutional grounding. It is anchored in the Constitution. In that, in every constitutional democracy, when we are practicing constitutional democracy, people are entitled to information. Let me, Article 21, F, will tell you, Article 21, if I may read.
Go ahead.
It says that all persons shall have the right to. Then it goes to F, information, subject to such qualifications and laws as are necessary in a democratic society. So if there is an information that the Attorney General wants to give to the public, we are entitled to it. And the vice versa is that if citizens need any information, right, they have the right to get the information from any institution. Now, what are we talking about? We are talking about public purse. We are talking about what is happening. So that makes it a public trial. Now, if it's an individual issue that there is no money involved, and this is an issue where we think that the interest of society is at stake, that is when information is being given to the society. So whilst you are doing this, there are interests that have to be balanced. One, what has to be balanced, the public must know. What do they have to know? You also have to look at the individual's right to fair trial. So if you're looking at the individual's fair trial and also the government's ability to enforce the administration of justice to make sure that it is done. So whilst balancing these three issues, you just make sure that you do not breach any or the individual's right.
I'm glad you talk about fair trial, because that's what Article 19 really talks about.
Yes.
And I'll just go ahead and read a bit of that. And specifically Article 19 2C, Clause 2C, says that a person shall be presumed innocent until he is proved or has pleaded guilty. So the argument is that these press conferences are already conditioning the minds of individuals listening to the Attorney General, and by the facts, as it were, the AG calls them facts, he's already kind of convinced these individuals that these are the facts I have given you, without necessarily going to court first to prove that the person is innocent or not.
You see, that's where the facts that has been given at the end of the day remains allegation. It remains allegation that is being made against the individual. It is also that it is presumed. So if the Attorney General goes to say that he is guilty by the fact that I brought in this, and has also even gone and said that these are going to be the witnesses, this is what this witness is going to say, that is when he will have crossed the boundary, breaching the rights of the individual when he says that he is guilty. But now when he says that these are the facts, the enforcement agencies of the investigative agencies, this is what they have found. This is what we intend charging the people. These are the people who have to put before court. So once he gives that information, as done normally by the attorneys in the advanced democracy that we are following in the United States, these are the things that he has said. But if he goes beyond to say that by the facts that I have, he's already guilty, then that is where it would be wrong for the Attorney General to do that. But he is now giving information to engender, because people want to know. It brings about transparency. It brings about trust in the public. And once the transparency, everybody knows or is expecting that this is what we've heard. If this is what we've heard, what happens in the administration of justice? That is it the same case you are putting, or there's a different case? That is why you even see that the moment the case gets to court, the Attorney General or the prosecution itself ceases commentary on the matter. It becomes an issue where the media is now given that power to report accurately what happens in court. So these are the two different things that at the time the Attorney General is giving the information, the facts that has come to his custody, he's not prosecuting the matter. The people are not even accused, they are suspects. Until they are put before the court, then they become accused persons.
I want to come to Professor Ayine very shortly, but I want to read a quote of what the Attorney General said during one of his earlier press conferences, and that was in March. And he said that, I will not rush to court on any matter. Of course, I'm skipping other bit of what he said. If I don't have the kind of evidence, I will not go to court. And then he said that he was under pressure to prosecute and not go to court. And I remember in that press conference, which was held in March, he said that so if you look at this Edubuahin case, for instance, it shows that we have enough evidence. You're saying that you are under pressure to prosecute. You have evidence. So why don't you go to court? Why are you telling us of the evidence you have? Just go to court and go ahead to prosecute.
Well, you see, I've already said that, because one of the issues is that you claim, or you are saying the allegation is that the individual has taken public money or has stolen or embezzled public money, right? So you are giving information to the public that so far, this is what we have found. Now, he is saying that I will not be compelled just to go to court because I want to prosecute somebody. That is when the issue of politicizing it or persecuting somebody. So he's all just saying that I'll prosecute people, but I will not persecute them. I will not persecute them if I don't have evidence which would grant me a conviction. I don't think it is something I want to do as a state. So it's the information he's giving, and also giving the assurance to the individuals that I will not do any persecution when I don't have evidence against you. You know, people make allegations that when allegations are made, it is the responsibility of the prosecution to come and make sure that they have proved beyond the reasonable doubt. All that the individual, the accused or the suspect needs to do is to create in the mind of the court that the facts that you are talking about do not exist. So example is like there is a murder. Once there is a murder and they said it happened within the premises of TV3, I was the one. But the time that it happened, I was not at TV3, right? So if that fact, I'm able to tell the court that fact, then the court will now see that that fact do not exist.
So if I want to come back to you on this Article 19 I just talked about, and the clause 2C, which clearly talks about somebody is innocent until the person is proven guilty, or the person has said that I am guilty. Given the argument is that already given these facts, kind of, you know, indirectly implicating the person at certain levels. I don't know whether you're convinced by how Lawyer Daudu is explaining the posture of the Attorney General now.
When you come to logic and critical thinking and we talk about facts, it's about whose facts? Is it accused fact or the prosecutor's facts? So two things are here in Ghana, because this is peculiar to Ghana. The expectations of the people. So what are the expectations of the people? The expectation is that those who have looted us should be prosecuted. And it's clear to everybody. But then the reactivity is where the problem is. How do we react to it? I've seen somebody, a pastor of my church, who went to Kumasi from one of these villages, got to the place, and then at dawn, at KJTR, and somebody tried to pick his pocket. He shouted, "Okromfo," and then before he knew, he was beaten. Like, he was beaten to pulp. They nearly killed him.
The person he shouted at?
The person he shouted at had his people following him who were all pickpocketers. They beat the pastor until he died. They said he was rather a pickpocketer. Had somebody not got there and said that I know this man to be a pastor, they would have killed him. So a person is always proven innocent until there are evidences against that person that the person is guilty. Now, when we come to a balancing act, because this is a balancing act that we're talking about, in leadership, you know, we have inductive reasoning and deductive reasoning. That is what the intelligence media uses to tell, were you there at when the event occurred? And ask a lot of questions. So when we talk about facts, if you have the facts, then go to court, send the person to jail, and Ghanaians will be free. But when you brief the people, like I said, it's a balancing act. So let me say that the oral briefing, yes, he's not done anything wrong. But the problem is it necessary? So the necessity is where the question, is it necessary?
Do you find it necessary?
I think that it is necessary to some extent, because I will profess some argument for and against that. So there's nothing wrong with that, but the debate arises from the necessity that are we prejudicing the ongoing process? That is where the debate is. So in answering that, there are a lot of questions, you know, because he's trying to outline what is happening, calling it a fact. He's trying to inform the people that we are here at this stage. But the question is, how do we recover the state funds that we lost through corrupt deals and the numerous mismanagement of the previous governments? I'm saying previous governments because it entails all the governments. That is why ORA is there. Now, the answer is the choice of measure that the AG is going to use. So do you think briefing or going to the social media, does that solve the problem? Because how is he going to be judged? By integrity of the case. And the integrity of the case is, has he been able to prosecute those who were touted to have committed those crimes? So three things are clear here, and I'm going to list them, three situations. Either one, he knows what he's doing and have chosen the right medium, which is the briefing, to solve the problem.
Because he says he's accountable to the people.
Yes, so maybe he knows what he's doing. Or he thinks he knows what he's doing. So his choice of public empathy for what he's doing is what he thinks is going to give us the results. And the last option is that he knows enough to be sufficiently sure that he's making the right choice of the legal process. So either he knows, either he needs help, or he doesn't know what he's doing. And in all the cases, he's shown that he knows what he's doing, but he's just informing the people. That is where care should be taken, because legality is not guided by morality. So morality is always, I have said this 1,000 times, that morality is higher of the bar than legality. Any society that you go, when people are highly moral, the law doesn't, the police officer cannot even catch anybody because they know the right thing to do. But in our case, we are bringing the people along to know that this is where we are on this case, because it is really a priority for the people. They want to know that money looted from them, those who looted them are really prosecuted. And that is the result that we want. So the Attorney General will be judged by that result, but not briefing the people about the steps that he has reached.
All right. So let me get your thoughts, Lawyer Alexander Aban. I'm sure you heard the submission by Mr. Kojoga Adaudu, and then that of Professor Opukwenchi there, talking about balancing the act, which was a point you made earlier between the political communication and really giving the legal fact, as it were. And then he also talks about the necessity of this. Are you changing your mind on the earlier position you held, that perhaps this may be necessary and so the AG should continue on this tangent?
No, I'm not changing my mind. And let me start from where you posed your question. The law, in its wisdom, would always want to protect the individual against the might of the state. And so, even if you catch somebody in the real act, what the lawyers will say, in flagrante delicto, that he is committing the act. Even there, the law says that he is innocent, right? And so the process starts with investigation, arrest, further investigation, right? Then you build your dossier of pieces of evidence which you are yet to put before the court. And the evidence must be of such quality as would raise all reasonable doubts in the mind of the courts.
What about what he's told us in the press conferences so far? You don't think they are strong enough, even in proceeding to court?
You see, if he just comes to say that we have arrested this person, further investigation is ongoing. When we get any other information, we will put it before the public. It ends there. But when you go and even start saying that what you have found is like the thriller in Manila, and that there are others which will be the fight between, is it Foreman and Rumble in the Jungle, right? Because these were boxing. Yes. When you say that, it appears to me that you say, hey, we have found something very gargantuan against this person, and the thinking would be that the person is heading for jail, right? It is that kind of propagandist bit that I am uncomfortable with. Because the person who heard your press conference may not have followed to the end. What if, at the end of the trial, the accused person is acquitted and discharged? Are you going to still say that we have thriller in Manila, and that those that are yet to come will be like the rumble in the jumble? So those are the things that create problems. Otherwise, it will even be unfair to the public for you to, if I say, effect arrests of things that people think are huge in nature and has a lot of public sentiments following it. It is always necessary that you get the public to go along with you. But on facts and let them know that what you are putting there are facts. You have evidence to substantiate the facts, and that those ones will be dealt with in the courtroom.
And on this note, I want to come back to you, Mr.
I wanted
Daudi.
to just add a small bit of it. He mentioned it.
As in Professor Ayine.
Professor mentioned it.
Yes.
That previous governments, this issue of previous governments is what creates the problem. Before you realize, it ends with the previous opposing government, right? If we had Attorney General arresting or causing the arrest, investigating people in government, people in previous government of his party, and people in previous government of opposing parties, I'm sure this will be put to rest.
Are you trying to say that Prof was trying to politicize it, like it's kind of a witch hunt,
No,
and that's what you have a problem with it?
I caution.
He did not
Yeah.
end it just with previous opposing government. He said previous governments.
Yes.
And so I go along with him. That let that investigation, let that process of prosecution transcend beyond just the previous opposing government. Because the question is, why is it that it is only when there is a change of government that suddenly we see a flood of a lot of misdeeds, if I may put it that way, or criminal conduct on the part of those who have just exited government?
But don't forget that ahead of the election, the NDC had raised concerns about a lot of things. The National Cathedral, a few other things that they thought were not, I mean, the public funds were not prudently used in investing into them. And so if they came to power, they were going to investigate it. So is that
I'm not restricting it to NDC at all. And that's why I asked, why is it that it's only when we have a change in government that these things seem to come up, right? Because I'm very sure that prior to coming into government of the actual MPP regime, they also made certain remarks, certain comments. And it appears to me that in Ghana, the magic one that changes government is usually about corruption, okay, campaign on corruption.
Even all military generals, they came on corruption. Everything has been done on corruption.
Some way, somehow, because we put it at high pedestal, every time that a government changes, the new government would want to at least do something to show that indeed the perception that existed prior to the elections were not only perceptions, but real. Right? And that's why when anything comes up, to ginger the base, we would come and say that, oh, we have caught this person, we have done that, this humongous amount of money has been embezzled by him, and that may be the thriller in Manila. There are bigger ones that we are yet to bring, and that will be the rumble in the jungle. And you get there, you do this, and it becomes politics.
And it's okay. You wanted to respond quickly before I come in with my question.
You see, the reason whilst you are saying that it is only at the end of, or there's a change in government, it is always because whilst you are in government, investigating your own, sometimes you may not have the information. And there's that political will may not be there. But at the end of your term, accountability comes. That is when people come to volunteer information, give information that this is what had happened. Now, new people come in, and when they look at some of the book, information given to them suggests that there should be, your stewardship has to be, you have to account for your stewardship. That is why sometimes you find a lot of cases from the previous regime. But, you know, campaigning on corruption, economic issues is very high on the pedestal. If you watch change of regimes of government, the first thing that it's always on the front burner is about corruption.
Because a lot of money
because
have been
people
lost to them.
crusade. when there is a crusade that we think that there is corruption, we think things are not going very well, that is when it calls for accountability. And the people's expectation, it's so high. And that is why they bring in information, and those information they bring still remains an allegation. I can tell you that even with this things that we are doing, there have been former ministers, there have been people who have been visiting the investigative agencies. Some of them, even when you hear what they have said, you just know from the one that this will not fly.
So let me ask you this before I come to Professor Ayine.
Yeah.
Basically, what I'm hearing is that, yes, inform the public, but there needs to be that balance, and it has to cut across the political divide. And I wanted to ask you whether really there's anything like protection here in terms of naming these individuals and what they have done in what the AG does. Because I remember you saying earlier that you think that at the end of the day, the AG must balance even protecting the individual
interest, yes,
and also giving the fact as it were. And I wanted to read Article 18 again. Well, I haven't read that yet, but 18.2 says, no person shall be subjected to interference with the privacy of his home, property, correspondence, or communication, except in accordance with law and as may be necessary in a free and democratic society for public safety or the economic well-being of the country, for the protection of health or morals, for the prevention of disorder or crime, or for the protection of the rights or freedoms of others. The question I want to ask you is, fairly, looking at how the AG has gone about his press conferences and the kind of details he has given the public, do you believe that he had this in mind, this very Article 18.2 in mind, in protecting the individuals even before they are taken to court?
Definitely. AG knows the law. Now, this is in relation to privacy and private property. But once you come under the radar of investigation, right, the law differs. Once there is an investigation, it doesn't mean that you should intrude, but you are given the power by the courts. Maybe when search warrants are being done, it is the court says that go into the privacy, get A, B, C, D. So when it comes to that, the law says that once the law empowers you to do something, that's what ought to be done. That's what people would say when there is no search warrant and others, and they go to other people's home, that's where there's hue and cry. But once there is an order from the court, your rights, some has been curtailed, will be curtailed. So everybody is protected, but it is not absolute, especially when it comes or there's suspicion that you have committed an offense or a crime.
And Prof, I want to come to you on this. We'll be hearing and watching the Attorney General very shortly, because in the last press conference he held just last Friday, the 13th of this month, he responded to that question as to whether or not he was prosecuting people in the court of public opinion. We'll be hearing exactly what he said in his defense. But before we watch the Attorney General responding to that question, I just wanted to we've heard lawyer Adawudu telling us that the AG is just giving facts, and there are those who also feel that he's just giving facts of the matter. He didn't say that ABCD are criminals and therefore, I'm going straight ahead to prosecute them. He's just giving facts. So what is wrong with that?
So I teach a lot of ethical things, and I think that there's nothing factual in law. Even when judgments have been made, we can still go back with some evidences after DNA and say that, no, we made a mistake. I know a case that I've always referred to. Somebody was killed and then went to a lawyer. Lawyers are trained to defend. And then the lawyer said, the only way you can get all the hoop for this case is that we are going to court next week. You have to get somebody to kill another person at the same spot. And you know what happened? The lawyer put it to the judge that, my lord, as we speak now, you said my client killed somebody at that place. But there's another person that has been killed at the same spot. So I put it to you that my client is innocent. And it took many years, after the judgment, that the person is innocent. And then the person did not sort out the lawyer very well, and then that contention came out, and then we got to know the fact. So what I'm trying to say is that we have to investigate a case until we do the investigation, make some arrests, and in this case, some individuals have been arrested. The National Service lady and then Eduwain have been arrested, but they were bailed. Why did they bail them? Because they are going through the legal process. After bailing, there's further investigation. They are going to court, go and come. That is what frustrates Ghanaians. They go and come, sometimes it takes too long. They go and come. And that is why we said that you should be careful, because once you come to say, I have facts, and you keep go and come and go and come, nobody is prosecuted, then there's a problem. Even after further investigation, we need more evidence before the trial, and then judgments are made. So if you talk about facts from the beginning, then people in their mind would think that the person has already been jailed.
So let's
but that is not the case.
Let's watch the Attorney General defending himself during the press conference last Friday, exactly what he said.
Now, someone asked, why the press briefing? This is a perennial question that I get all the time. The detractors of oral, that is those who do not want or are not enamored of the oral agenda, would usually say that this is persecution, a persecution of the suspects in the media, or prosecution of the suspects in the media. Now, the United States of America is one of the world's oldest democracy, okay? And U.S. prosecutors, district attorneys, or even the Attorney General of the United States of America, when they conclude investigations, they brief the press on their findings. Sometimes they file the charges and come out of the courtroom to brief the press on the charges that have been filed. There is nothing absolutely wrong with this. So those who think that accounting to the people, if you look at the meaning of the word accountability, accountability simply means to explain one's actions. And so we have a duty to account to the people of this country. And so when I'm taking prosecutorial decisions, I need to account to the people of our country for the decisions that I take. So this is the whole essence of the exercise, and especially within the context of oral. We don't want any situation where we file charges and then we are being told that we have just decided to persecute people because of their political leanings. In all the press briefings that I have done, I have not mentioned or connected any political party to the actions of the people that, I arrest and investigate, okay? So the idea of doing this is not in order to make any political party look bad or any faction in our Ghanaian politics look bad. What we are doing is simply to account to the people of this country. And it doesn't matter how many times it is said, I will continue to account to the people of this country through the press briefings that the press engagements that we do from time to time.
And you just watched and heard right there the Attorney General, Dr. Dominic Ayine. And I'm coming back to you briefly, Prof, because you said you wanted to conclude on your thoughts and to also get your thoughts on whether or not you were convinced by the explanation.
Thank you, Beatrice. There's something called red meat in politics all over the world. If you don't take care, you give your followers red meat, something to chew on, and then they will misinterpret you. And as a leader, you might be misinterpreted and in the end embarrass yourself. The results that we are looking for is that there are detractors, people who don't want ORA to go on. That I agree with him perfectly. But Ghanaians want ORA to go on. We want people who have looted our resources to be prosecuted. Yes. But we're talking about the process that we have to go through. So he said that, what? Accountability. Yes, we all want to hold people accountable, but he said that he will continue to do it. I have been on jury duty in the U.S. a couple of times. When you go on jury duty, they ask you, what do you know about this case? Once you tell them that, oh, I know about that case, they take you off jury duty. They want individuals who know nothing about it so that they will not prejudge the situation. So caution here, I'm not a legal person, but the caution here, I'm talking from leadership perspective, is that if care is not taken, the common man on the street, that is how I started with, when you interpret to them that, okay, this person has done A, B, C, D, and the evidence are clear. So I'm telling you that even somebody who has never done law can prosecute Gifty and the other guy, Dubois, because what we are hearing is that there's 7 million cybersecurity theft, and there's 999 ghost names. This woman, and millions of money has been embezzled. Then send the person to court, the evidence, you have them already, and jail them so that Ghanaians will be happy. But if you are still investigating and they are going to court and coming, they have their lawyers, then we don't have the facts yet. We should tread on caution.
We should tread on caution, you say. I want to come to you, Lawyer Ban, but let me read a bit of your comments to you before I get your thought on what the AG told us just last Friday that we just replayed to you. Evans 1GA says, I align with Professor's line of argument. There's Nanaya York. Okay, he's just saying good evening, TV3 Ghana. Nanaya also says, one thing about this AG update is based on how oral was prescribed for Ghanaians to vote. So it's better everyone get to know how far it has traveled. Either the said allegations were true or mere speculations. Emmanuel Odonko says, the condition of your mind is irrelevant in convincing an accused. It is the courts only that can convict. Prince Henry Koforidia says the only people that should be worried about what the AG is doing must be nation workers and criminals. The AG is resetting Ghana, and those who are afraid should be ready from next month onwards. So far, okay, he's praising John. He says so far John Mahama has made corruption so expensive for all appointees. I read one more. It says the man is not changing. His mind is. Because he is MPP, he can't be convinced. Okay.
Cool.
Okay, so I think that's a statement to you, Mr. Ahmad. And then Benjamin Kofi Olozo says, finest brain Goma West away for a dust lawyer. Alexander Kweju Komaban is coming back. Okay, so then there's another person who is actually shouting your praise. And let me read one more from YouTube, and I'll get your preliminary thought as well. Actually, two more. James Dato Kib, I hope I got your name correctly, says, AG is actually carrying the public along and actually making Ghanaians aware of what actually happened in the previous government. And Black Arabian says, we understand, but we want to see the people start going to jail and the money recovered. I think that's the point Professor Enchi said. So now let me get your thoughts on what the AG told us. And he's actually said that he's going to go ahead, continue doing that.
Good. He said that he has not linked any person to any political party, right? He does not need to do that for us to know who are the targets. He doesn't, right? In the first place, before the elections, it was, trumpeted all over that the previous government, and of course, that was NPP government, we cannot run away from that, was corrupt, right? And that they had stolen so much money and all that and all that and all that, right? All those, this came up. Good. And then the whole exercise was, it was a captioned oral operation, recover all loot. Immediately rehearsing the mind of the people to get along with you that there has been so much loot. Okay? By who? The previous government. All right? And then you come into power, you start the process, as I have said. If it is just about giving facts and making the people look as individuals, I have no problem. That's why I kept asking, why is it that when it comes to this issues of accountability, corruption, and all that, people in government who may be doing a lot of corrupt deals are never found until they are out of government. The question he said was that, oh, at that time you may not get the information. Do you have evidence of the fact that there are some individuals in government right now involved in any corrupt activities that the government should put the spotlight on? No, I'm not saying that anybody, but over the period, history has taught us that the corrupt dealings were done at the time that they were in government. But the attorney generals of the regimes, the various regimes, never found it until they all left. A new set of people came in and found the corrupt dealings of the previous opposing government.
No, I think I disagree with you. I disagree with you in the sense that You see, when the scandals, there is always allegation or perception that there are scandals, and scandals are being reported, and nothing is being done about it. Then it influences, fuels the perception that there's real something that has to be investigated. In the previous, I think John Mahama, his administration, we saw people within his own government being prosecuted. Jida was one. We saw the national service, and the same national service is even coming back.
Yes.
It's back. So it tells you that within national service, now everybody's
the notorious
eyes,
national service.
Yeah, notorious. So now everybody's eyes is going to be on national service.
I think I should be taking
Right. It's going to be on national service because it's seen that there are some loopholes in there. Or
Why haven't you
the
been
scheme
able to resolve that?
No. So I'm
Over the
sure
years.
with this investigation, it's not going to be, we want to prosecute everybody, but what are the loopholes? What are the modus operandi in there that at the end of the day, it attracts the people, that there's something juicy, that they all get in, when they leak, they say, oh, this looks good. And at the end of the day, that becomes...
Okay,
My last
okay.
point, I
So
don't
that
think
should
we
be
did.
your final
Yes,
word because we are wrapping up, and then I'll get the final words
All
of the
these
other two
discussions
gentlemen.
of attorneys general within the various regimes not being able to gather information, is it not enough for us to now think that the attorney general must be very, very independent and insulated from political influences? That's just a question for all of us.
So
to
for
think
you, that
about.
should be the way forward.
Probably. And that's how the Attorney General will be able to deal with persons in the certain
Is it
government.
not easier said than done? Because the government would
No,
want to
it's-
have somebody who is in their, as it were, pocket, so that when there's something, that
And
has
so
to
that
be
is
ruled
where
in
the
favor of the
problem lies.
government.
So, Beatrice, what I would say is that...
And that should be your final
yes,
word, and I'll
yes,
get that off Mr.
Ora is one of the greatest things that has happened to our country. Since independence, various governments, even the military, when they came in, the first thing they talk about was corruption in the system. And yet corruption is still with us. It sleeps with us, it wakes up with us every day. I think that the president, this president, Mahama, His Excellency, should be highly recommended for what he's done. Why? He's made a bold step with this Ora. When I saw Martin Pebu and Sami and others working on this, and the former Auditor General working on this, I was really thrilled. Why? If people are put to jail, then what we know is that when MPP also comes to power one day, they will also prosecute a lot of NDC people who also corrupted themselves and looted. So it will reduce significantly the number of looting we have. And I think that is why this is a bold step. But there are a lot of strategies of dealing with looting.
If you could be wrapping up for
Yes,
us.
I'll wrap up quickly. And I think that we should look at who is corrupting looting and who is behind it. We should work on both ways to solve it. The other one is that we should prepare dockets to make sure that we have solid evidence to prosecute these people so that nobody will say it is political witch hunting. Because that is the way it is. If you see members of parliament coming to sit at Yoko, that is what it tells you, that our standards are so low in dealing with corruption. But I think that we are on the right path in uprooting corruption because it has really swallowed us, and that is why we are not developing as a nation.
Mr. Adaudu, in like 30 seconds, if
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
able to
I
tell us
think
the
that-
way forward, especially
Yeah.
in balancing the act.
Yeah, I think that in doing that, the Attorney General in the subsequent press conferences giving us the facts, I think he needs to balance the act. He needs to make sure that the case is not prejudiced.
So you agree with Prof that perhaps
Oh,
you should
yes.
gather all the facts
No,
before
we
he comes
always
out.
learn. It's a learning curve. So that it's not like you mention witnesses, their names. So at least they should develop some guidelines which they themselves and they will know when in relation. And two, I think that we should make corruption unattractive. When we make it unattractive, people will get to know that at the end of the day I'll be caught. And the third one is that as political parties, as members of parties, when individuals are getting their hands tainted, we should not be seen to be encouraging and say that no, he should get his hand tainted and it is about the party. No, it's about the individual. Let the individual be accountable. If it is about the party, everybody will see through. And I think that let's try to divorce what the individuals appointees do,
We'll have
that
to
gives bad names to the political
We'll have
parties.
to end it here. Thank you very much, Victor Kojoga Adaudu. He's a private legal practitioner. He's also a member of the NDC's legal team. Of course, we've had with us as well on my immediate right, Professor Enoch Opoku-Entry. He's a governance expert, and we've also had Alexander Aban, private legal practitioner. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us on Agenda tonight. My name is Beatrice. Do join us again next week. Have a good evening.
Is that